It's Brian, and yeah, I'm not at home. I'm in California. I'm on a Disney trip, also a burrito trip, and I wanted to make this video specifically while I'm here to talk about the value of the Disneyland Annual Pass. I'm an annual pass holder. I live out of state, so my perspective may be a little bit different, but I want to talk about the values of it, kind of what I expected going in before I bought it, what I've gotten out of it so far, whether it's worth it or not, and if I'm going to renew when it comes time to do that in a couple months. Before we start, I do want to take some time to just acknowledge, obviously, I have immense privilege to be able to do this, even from this spot where I sit, which we'll get into. There's a lot of advantages that I've had in life that lead to this moment, from the family I was born into, even to just being able to have a job and hold a job through everything that's happened at all, but also in the last 3 years. So I acknowledge that I'm very privileged to be able to do that. I am grateful every day for the privilege that I have. And, I just wanted to make this video from my perspective, and it might be similar to yours. It might not be, but this is just the perspective that I've had. So just wanted to share that. No video for this part, so enjoy these goats from Big Thunder Mountain along with me. I don't think I did well enough to voice that. My takeaway is, if you live out of state and you don't live in, say, Nevada or Arizona, this is just not a valuable proposition. It's too hard to make up the cost for it, given you'll probably have to pay for accommodations and transportation, which are things that I am fortunate enough to not have to pay for, that I have, sort of arranged already. However, I do think this video does well to present a sort of break-even point for the pass, to at least get to a point where you feel like you can justify spending the money and feel like you're getting out ahead in terms of value. So if you're someone who maybe lives in state or lives close, like Nevada or Arizona, and you feel like you might go a handful, close to half a dozen times, this could be something that might be of interest to you. Yeah, I just want to make sure that was clear. I didn't feel like I did a good enough job explaining that and thoroughly going over what I feel the value is. Also, if there's any echo, I don't know, I'm going to post-process this audio, but just listen to this. This is different from my office. Okay, that's a lot of echo. Way to go, Brian. That was a seamless clap sync. Anyway, I want to talk about my history with Disney to start with. I was born in California in 1991. I lived here until 2010 and then came back in 2015. I lived here until 2020. And throughout that entire time, I was, interested in Disneyland, and I would go 2 to 3 times a year, but I had family that worked there that would get us in for free when we wanted to go. So I never really paid to go to the parks. I was very fortunate to be in that position. But around 2020, when I moved a couple years later, my family who lived here, who got us into the parks, they moved, all that changed. I started having to pay to go by myself, which is, the reality everybody else faces. Unfortunately for me, this was also around the time when my interest in going to the parks increased like exponentially. So that was poor timing on my part. Though in 2021, 2022, I went a lot. I probably went just to Disneyland probably 12, 13-ish times in total within those 2 years. And I kind of look back on it as a blessing, because they were kind of sporadically selling annual passes at that point. Fresh off of COVID, they were kind of a little bit stingy with how many they were gonna sell, so it was kind of hard to get them. So I kind of used those 2 years as like a factoring point for whether or not this would be a valuable investment down the road if I wanted to eventually explore getting the annual pass for myself. And when I look back at those 2 years and I see, okay, I went like 12 times, 12, 13 times, yeah, it's probably gonna be worth it if I do this. So that was the reason why in January of this year I bought the annual pass. And as an out-of-state person, I feel like this is very important to mention, I had to pay the entire $1,600 up front. So there's no payment plan if you live out of state. You can't pay I don't know how much it is per month. I think it's like 130-ish or something like that. But you can't pay that if you live out of state. You just have to pay it all at once, which does kind of suck. But again, very fortunate to be able to have a job where I can look at that and I can, kind of see my entire calendar year at a glance and think, okay, well, it's going to pay off in the long run if I just pay for it all now. So it does make the calculus a little bit different, just thinking about it in those terms, as opposed to, essentially considering it another subscription that I have throughout the year. But it really made sense to me looking at it just pragmatically. I usually only go on the weekends because that's when I can. I work during the week. I can come here and I can work remotely from here, but I'm still working during the week. So most of the time I would be coming anyway to the parks would be on the weekend. And if you look just historically at those prices, it's probably going to be about $230 to $250 for a park hopper on a weekend date. So already, if you just get 6 park hopper tickets at that sort of tier rate, you're already covering the whole cost of the annual pass. And so I just thought, I'm probably going to go 6 times. I think at that time I already had 3 trips to San Diego planned. So it's like, I could probably make this work. I could probably go that many times. So let's just try it and see what happens. And of course, that doesn't even factor in all the other, benefits you get from it. You get free parking, which again, going off this 6 visits example, that's $180 that you're saving when parking was $30. Now it's $35, but that's another almost $200 you're saving right there. So that really just adds some value onto that. Then I don't really take much advantage of this as it is. I have this merch. I have some merch, but I don't buy a lot of merch. I don't buy a lot of ears or stuff like that, knickknacks for the house. I'm not really kind of into that. But, when I do buy merch for myself or other people, I get, 20% or whatever, 15% off of that. I don't even know. I don't use it that much, so I don't even know. But you get a little bit off of there too, which is nice. And then in addition to that, you also get the food discount, which it's harder to see it compound over time. It's probably bigger for me than the merch spending savings that I've had. But, when you're looking at it objectively, like, okay, I'm saving 60 cents on this meal, it's kind of hard to factor that in. But I think, over time, as I've bought more and more food at the parks, it's really added up. Unfortunately, a lot of my spend is churros, which don't really count. So that is a problem, but that is a nice savings to have as well on top of it. So all in all, I was looking at, $1,600 right off the bat for a value of what looked like at least like $1,800, $1,900. And for me, that equation made sense. What I didn't know at the time was that having the annual pass would just enable me to go more. I come to San Diego a lot because this house that I'm in, it is a family owned property. I can stay here for free when I come. So it's very easy for me to get down from where I live to San Diego. It's usually, if I time it right, it's about $300 round trip. And once I'm here, I can stay for free. There's a car I can drive, so I can go up to Anaheim. I have a license, I can drive. So that works out for me. But the problem is I found that as the year went on, when I was in San Diego, I would spend more and more days at the parks, even just like half days. So it really had that extra effect on me where I would go more than I anticipated just because I could. I never had that luxury before. I could say, oh, there's a reservation open today, I'm going to go, or, anything like that. So I did find that I went more than I expected, which is good. It's a sunk cost. I can't make up cost, but to, kind of squeeze a little bit more out of it, which I just said you can't do, but, effectively, it makes you feel a little bit better inside, even though the money's spent and gone. But so that was a nice thing. I have all the dates here. I went on March 4th, March 5th, March 20th. That was 2 different San Diego trips. Then June 11th, August 26th, October 28th, October 29th, October 31st. And then I'm going to go again in December, but I'm not going to share that date because I don't want you to know when I'm not at home. So I went 9 times in total so far. There might be another date in November. I haven't really planned out vacationing or, travel for November. So there could be another time or two. I could go again in December. I don't know, but that so far is what I have. And so with going more often, I think there is like one effect that I didn't sort of anticipate. I'd been to the parks many times in 2021, 2022, both here and in Florida. I don't feel like at any point in time within that period, I had any sort of fatigue of like, I don't have to stay the whole day. I can just leave at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., like feel like I got enough out of this. I've had a lot more days like that with the annual pass. Previously, my life as a Disney parks goer would be show up at 8, leave at midnight. Like no exceptions. I'm doing the whole 16 hours. That is it. But my experience with the annual pass has been that I go, 9, 10, 12 hours, somewhere in there. And then I just bounce out because I'm done. And I think that in a way, it's like you're getting less value out of each individual visit. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, I feel better about going because I'm not like forcing myself to squeeze as much out as I can from every visit. So every visit, I'm focusing on doing other things. Like literally this weekend, October, one of the days I went on 2 rides the entire time I was there for like 9 hours. And I was just taking pictures. I brought my film camera and I was just taking pictures around the park. And that was more valuable to me than going on rides because I know that I'm coming back to go on rides in a couple days or, next month or whatever it was. So I did value that more than I expected. There's sort of like a give and take in terms of like, you're getting less out of each individual visit in terms of, pure dollar for dollar, if you want to call it that, experience. I'm not going on as many rides because I know when my next visit is going to be or that there will be another visit. But I found that taking time to prioritize things that I've never done before or just take things a little bit slower was more value in and of itself compared to that. As an old person, my back starts to hurt or I want to sit down for a while. Like it's nice to be able to factor that in and know that like I'm going to be back here. It's fine. Like I can do this. I can sacrifice this time for a time I'll be here again later. So I did like that was a trade-off that I didn't expect, but I got through this experience. I also appreciate that it's given me a chance to really experience like the whole seasonality of Disneyland, all the different stuff that happens throughout the year, the different overlays. As a kid growing up, we usually went mostly like around Thanksgiving, the end of the year. So I'm really mostly used to the Christmas overlay. I would go a lot during fall as well. So the Halloween and Christmas time, that's what I'm most used to. But being able to see the park in different light for just like kind of vanilla Disneyland and that you get in like February or March, it's really nice to be able to see that. This year I got to go to the Food and Wine Festival Festival, which I had never been to at Disneyland before. I had gone to Florida's, but never been to Disneyland's. So I got to, do new things there, experience new booths, go to try new foods, which all costs a lot of money. But it was a lot of fun to be able to do that because I knew that I had a pass. I could go and, that was already paid for. I just had to get to California. So I like that aspect of it. I would say the only thing that I don't like about the pass is the new restrictions that they added to this iteration of it, where even in December, there are dates that are blocked out. For the first time, the highest tier card has some blockout dates. And I think for this key, it's like after December 19th or something through the rest of the year basically is all blocked out, which isn't great. That's like one of the best times to go, obviously, which is probably why they do it. But, it does suck that that's the case. It had me kind of change some holiday traveling plans that I had. So I went last year during the blockout period before I got the annual pass, and I really liked it. So, I had some experience knowing what that was like and how I wouldn't be able to do that. But, it is what it is. I feel like I get enough value of it throughout the rest of the year that it does suck, but I just know not to go then. So it's fine. I think the only other negative I really have kind of is more to do with the after hours event and the mishandling of it. I think the shit show that was Oogie Boogie Bash tickets was pretty bad for pass holders and everybody. I think it's not great that as a pass holder, especially at the highest tier, you don't get some sort of discount on those tickets. Those are the people who are going to be wanting to go the most. So it feels like you'd want to throw them a bone, $10 off at least or something. But overall, I think if they continue to add more of those special nights, we had Princess Night this year, which was, I didn't go, but I've heard it was okay. And I've heard somebody got in a fight. But I think that kind of stuff is the only thing that can really bring down the value, because that just adds more days where some parks are sort of blocked out for certain amounts of time during the day, which is a net negative for people who are going on the annual pass. So I do feel like that's the only negative, is that there's no real concession to the people who are paying the annual pass fees to get them in the door easier for those events, or, get a little bit of money off of that. So that's another negative. Obviously, you've probably seen by now that the prices of these passes have increased. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago they announced that the prices were going up. The pass that I have, the Inspire Key, went from $15.99 to now $16.49, I think. And I don't think that's going to factor too much into my decision. $50 is, in the grand scheme of things, across that large of a purchase, it's such a small percentage that, yes, I would rather not see it happen, but it's not going to impact my decision to renew or not. Especially with parking going up from $30 to $35. I mean, that's practically that savings in and of itself, just not having to pay that still. So I'm good with that. So I guess it should come as no surprise then that I do intend to renew my annual pass. I think part of it is, the value that I do get out of it. Part of it is like a little bit of fear that we might run into another situation akin to 2021 or 2022 where the passes are hard to get at some point, and I don't want to be locked out of that. I think there will be, a natural endpoint for where I can say, okay, I'm done. I don't need to go anymore. Like, I don't need to go with this kind of frequency. But for now, I still see this being a sustained interest that I have and something that I want to continue to do. So I see it being, a valuable, worthwhile investment for me. I do wish that they would let us pay the monthly cost. I think it's a little bit better in the long run. Time value of money. It makes more sense to just have the money and then spend it throughout the year, but whatever. So, just wanted to provide this interesting perspective from me, an out-of-state person who is on month 9 of my Disney Annual Pass. Just kind of wanted to share some insight from me. Might not be relevant to any of you, but hey, it's worth a shot. All right, that's it. I'm going to go, I don't know, do something else. Maybe I'll go to Disneyland. Are there any reservations today? I could go to Disneyland. I might. All right, that's it. See ya.